Arizona Cardinals. Red Sea, rise up. Los Angeles Rams. Let's go, Ramley. Seattle Seahawks. Let's go, 12, get loud. San Francisco 49ers. Home of the faithful. Quest for the West.
Quest for the West is back. We had a bye last week. I know you didn't expect a bye, but there was a bye nonetheless. But from the bye week now to us being all back together in one space, gentlemen, nice to have you both back on. Nice to be able to talk about football and what is happening now with all of the teams, because there's a lot of storylines and narratives changing all across the NFC West, from the 49ers figuring out how to play football for 4 full quarters, to the Rams making a bunch of moves and it not panning out on Monday night, to the return of Russell Wilson but some struggles from Seattle, and the Cardinals still being without Kyler Murray and some of their weapons, and finally, it coming back to bite them a little bit in the butt. We got Sam from the Always Compete Seahawks Podcast. We got Evan from the He's on Fire Podcast. Gentlemen, how are you both doing today?
I'm fine. Despite my team, my team's recent performance, I'm doing okay. I know it's a division game week this week, and I believe we've played the fewest teams in the division out of any team in the division, which is interesting. So we're going to see kind of what happens this week with, I know the Cardinals are coming to town, so that's going to be entertaining.
And I am rocking and rolling over here, ready to wipe the taste out of my mouth from that last game, whatever that was. The Carolina Panthers have traditionally owned us for the past 9 years or so, and it's on to Seattle week.
This is a big week for the both of you. Both of you guys are playing each other and facing off this week, in terms of, the Seattle Seahawks trying to get themselves back in the win column and back into the conversation in the NFC in the playoff picture, which isn't out of the question yet. I mean, yes, you guys are sitting at 3 wins, but you're only a game or two back from that last spot right now, that 7th seed. And this is a big opportunity this week with Arizona, and there's still being question marks there with Kyler Murray, with DeAndre Hopkins. Are they healthy? Are they going to be able to be healthy? Sam, how are you feeling heading into this matchup with the Arizona Cardinals? And do you guys have the pieces and the horses to be able to attack offensively, put some points up on the board, and take advantage of a potentially weakened Arizona team?
This game for Green Bay, with Russell Wilson coming back, was maybe the worst game that he could have come back for, in the sense that the weather obviously did not help the already weird situation with his hands and what was going on there. His hand doctor said it was the most severe injury he's ever seen to the throwing hand of a quarterback. So that was a little concerning. But I mean, he came out and he just didn't have it. He really didn't have it. And the team really didn't know what they wanted to do. They had a run game going and they were only down 7 in the second half. And Russ throws an interception in the end zone on a nice drive, and that kind of kills the entire game. So this is a big game. Obviously, Russ being back in Seattle might, help out his hand a little bit, might do him a little bit of good, just not being in that environment, playing one of the best defenses in the NFL in Green Bay in their home. It was bad. And I know that Arizona does have a strong defense as well, but, Green Bay is like number 1 kind of across the board. It's kind of crazy to see what they've done this year.
It's nuts, actually. It's absolutely nuts.
It's crazy because they've dealt with injuries. Preston Smith, Zadarius Smith, Jair Alexander, all of them have been hurt or banged up at one point, and they've really been a strong defense, which I came to realize on Sunday. So this is a big game for us, because if we win this game, then we're talking about a stretch of games where we play Washington, the 49ers, the Texans, then the Ramsey, and then Bears, Lions, and then back to Cardinals. We have the 3rd easiest remaining schedule in the NFL by opponent win percentage. So if we can win this game, get at 4-6, and we can like begin to really put some wins together, get momentum. This team has a great energy around them. They think that they're still in it. Obviously, the always compete mantra is there in that organization. So this is a very, very important game this week to rebound and to get back on track and try to, win games and get back into like the legitimate playoff contender picture, which they've been in for the past like 8 or so years.
Absolutely. And Evan, I want you to be able to give everyone a little bit of update on what's going on with Arizona with some of the health stuff. But then also, what are you guys going to have to do if Kyler can't go, if he's not able to go? Should Arizona Cardinals fans be worried? Are we starting to see some fracturing in terms of maybe the Cliff Kingsbury genius not being all 100 on point? Or is this solely because of the injury to Kyler Murray and being limited with what Colt McCoy can do and add to your team?
Let's be realistic. We were missing our starting quarterback, our starting running back, our 2 starting guards, our number 1 wide receiver, who's arguably the best wide receiver, and technically our number 1 tight end as well, too, and our best defensive lineman. So you take all of those things into factor and give me a list of how many teams can survive that.
None.
Zero.
None.
And the game last week started off much like the Cardinals 49ers game did, where you guys just handed us 14 points. I think it was maybe even 17 points, if I'm not mistaken, a field goal in there or something. You spotted us 17. Yeah. But that's exactly what this game was. It was a quick turnover by former Cardinal Hassan Reddick, and he got that. Cam Newton goes down and does his 1-yard run or pass, whichever one that was. And then we go back, we turn it over again, and we just spot them 14-0. And can't be a big bruising running team with James Conner if you're already behind and having to throw. And then Colt McCoy goes down as well, too. So we've already proven what kind of team that we are with a healthy Kyler Murray. We've already proven that. Nobody can discount that. But it's a what have you done for me recently league, right? Everybody was touting the Rams again after we crushed them, but they failed to realize that it was against Jacksonville, that it was against Houston. Really, really bad teams. Now that they lose, they're like, oh, but they only did it against an easy schedule, So it's what have you done for me lately? Nobody wants to remember how good we were when Kyler Murray was 100% healthy with a healthy D-Hop, all that stuff. So I don't know what to expect. The injury report is just like it was last week, with hopefully Justin Pugh and Max Garcia coming back. That would be huge just for the offensive line. Chase Edmonds is definitely out again, probably for another 2 games, 1 after the bye week. A lot of optimism and reports about JJ Watt returning before the season ends. Obviously, he's on IR. That's not going to do anything for this one. Not much about D-Hop. So where do we go with this one? I mean, man, if Colt McCoy can't play and K1 can't play, I mean, you can kind of throw this one in the bag. Fortunately for us, the Niners spotted us a game beating the Rams last night, and that was very helpful.
Welcome. You're extremely welcome.
Better late than never, you guys. So I really don't know what to expect, but at the same time, I've always said any given Sunday, anything can happen. So who knows?
You're not wrong. It truly is any given Sunday. If there is no Kyler Murray, if there is some doubt there with Colt McCoy, and I know it's not looking likely for Colt, do you get what would your score prediction, I guess, be? Evan, we'll start with you. What would your score prediction be with this game if you were limited and you don't have those pieces out there?
I mean, I can look at it at 2 different ways though. And I can't really give you a prediction, because I can look at it as like, when the best player on a basketball team is out, the rest of the players know they need to step up and they're going to get shots, and sometimes good things can happen. Right. True. But if the same offensive line shows up that it did for last week against Carolina, the score is going to be just like it was this week. I can't tell you that because I don't know which team is going to show up. The frustrating part out of everything is Cliff Kingsbury said after we lost to Green Bay, I'm not surprised we lost. We weren't focused. We weren't this, and we didn't have that kind of focus in practice. After this loss, he said, I was surprised we lost because I thought we had focus in practice. Tough part was last Wednesday, there were all these reports that we canceled practice and there was a COVID outbreak or something. And the fact of the matter was we had like 12 guys on the report that couldn't practice, and he just did a walkthrough. So did that affect something going in? And are we going to expect something like that tomorrow? So unfortunately, I can't even tell you where we can begin due to all the injuries. I don't even know what to see, what we're going to expect. We're just going to throw the ball out there and play some backyard football and see what happens on Sunday, as far as I'm concerned.
Evan, it sounds like you guys could use a bye. It sounds like you
One
guys
more
could
week.
use a...
One more week. This team is just trying to get to the bye, and I just have a feeling once we're through that bye, it's going to be all sugar, roses, candy, and butterflies after that.
Hey, good old sunshines and rainbows. And Sam, how are you feeling about this game and this opportunity? If you had to give a score prediction based on what you're hearing going on with Arizona right now, what are the chances for Seattle, and what do you think the score would end up being?
Well, Evan kind of talked about how he doesn't know what team's going to show up. It's the same way for me with the Seahawks, because the most frustrating thing is with this football team, right, is on Sunday, the run game was working like really, really well. Like Alex Collins was getting like 5, 6, 7 yards of carry, like consistently, like over and over again. And it was clear that Green Bay prepared for a lot of passing, and they were giving us big running lanes that we very much took advantage of in the first half. And then inexplicably in the second half, we run the ball maybe like 5-10 times. And like, when are we going to realize that, like, if they're going to give us like big plays in the run game, let's take the big plays in the run game. Sure, we have Russ, DK, Tyler, but if they're not working and the run game is working, especially with Chris Carson maybe coming back this week, maybe, we need to take advantage of that. And if we could play smart football and go out there and just take advantage, and especially if like a Kyler Murray's hurt or a D-Hop is hurt, D-Hop being hurt would greatly take off a lot of the stress that our corners would have, who've been pretty damn good as of late. I think that this is a game where it's an NFC West division game, so you never really know what can happen. I mean, look what happened with the 49ers and the Rams last night, where it was just a shellacking from start to finish, and like really the Rams never played. You never know. Like it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be a weird game. I mean, it really depends on like what two teams show up, because I feel like both of these teams are in an area right now where it's obviously more so better for the Cardinals, just judging by record. But I don't know. The Seahawks are kind of an anomaly for me right now. And if we can show up and just take what they give us and play sound football and scheme right, then we can easily win this game. But I'm not totally confident saying that we will.
Hey, that's fair. I 100% get where you both are coming from, because it's been the story of San Francisco all season long. Are you going to get a team that shows up and executes, or are you going to get a team that shows up and shoots himself in the foot every opportunity and chance that they get? And up until the last 3 weeks or so, it's been a team that consistently shoots themselves in the foot. 2 of the last 3 games, they haven't done that. Arizona 100% did. It's the team we all know and hate over here in the faithful fan base of the team that's going to show up and turn the ball over inexplicably, make an incredible catch by Brandon Ayuk in the goal line, try and get up and make a play, not secure the football, and hand the ball back to the Arizona Cardinals. That's the team that this fan base cannot stand, and it's the team that's consistently showed up. Now, luckily for the 49ers, well, I wouldn't even say luckily, this team is starting to figure out and put the pieces in place to be a team that can consistently execute. And that's what we saw Monday. I mean, Monday was a team that executed the game plan flawlessly. They came out and were physical, established that physicality early, ran the ball 44 plus times, just beat the Rams down their throat. And Kyle Shanahan looked across the field at his, protege, guy that he's coached with and is really good friends with, Sean McVay, and basically said, hey, guy, you know that I'm about to run the football. Do something about it. And they couldn't. They just couldn't get it done. The 49ers consistently against the Rams, just have these moments where they just elevate and step up and bring that little bit of extra against Los Angeles. Daniel Brunskill showed again that whenever he plays Aaron Donald, he's basically an all-pro. I don't get it. I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense in my head. I can't wrap around why this happens only against Aaron Donald. The funny part is Ant and I were sitting there at the end of the game watching one of the drives at the end, and we're watching Aaron Donald and Daniel Brunskill just absolutely stonewalling him every opportunity that he gets. They literally sub Donald out, put in someone else, and he gets destroyed, gets toasted, and the guy busts through the backfield and makes a tackle for a 4-yard loss. And him and I look at each other and just start laughing because he just, for whatever reason, when it's Donald in front of him, he plays at another level. And when it's any other name other than Aaron Donald, he can't do it. He can't do it consistently. What surprised you guys most from that game? Because we didn't get to talk about this last week leading into this game. I would imagine both of you thought San Francisco's chances were not great with all the additions they made on top of the OBJ signing. I'd say pre the Robert Woods injury, because we would have been recording that before Robert Woods goes down with the torn ACL. What surprised you most from that Monday Night Football game?
Okay.
Go for it. No, go for it, Sam.
Okay. Yeah. I was listening to NFL radio the next day, and they brought up a really good point that I never really thought about, but it made a whole lot of sense, especially as somebody who doesn't really follow the 49ers super in depth. I just, when they're on, I'll care because they're a division rival. I'll stay on top of some of the news breaks, but I'm not really like focusing on the ins and outs of their game and all that. But something I really found out was, and they made a great point when saying this, is that 49ers need to play football when they're ahead. And that's because this offense is built to play football while they're ahead, because they made the point of the 49ers want to just run the ball and establish that kind of, like you said, that gritty, tough kind of, we're going to beat you down as the game goes on kind of thing that the 49ers have been known for recently, especially in that Super Bowl year with Jimmy Garoppolo, where they had like seemingly like 5 all-pro running backs. I don't know what was happening, but I mean, so this team, like, they brought up like when they're behind, they don't want Jimmy G throwing and slinging the ball like crazy, and so much so that Jimmy G has to make the plays. More so, if you can give Jimmy G that cushion and be able to rely on the run game, and then say, Jimmy G, listen, we're ahead, so no pressure, but here's a play for you. And that happened a lot in the game. Jimmy G had some nice throws to Deebo Samuel, and Deebo Samuel was able to make some plays. He had a nice high point throw to George Kittle in the end zone, which like really was like, I'm like, okay, that's a nice throw. Way to give it to your playmaker, So this was a game where the 49ers showed what kind of team they are, where if they're ahead, they are seriously dangerous. And if their defense can be on point and they can establish the run game, establish the run attack, and play that Kyle Shanahan offense and what they want to do there, if the defense can just play and like stop them like they stopped the MVP front runner in Matt Stafford, then they're going to be seriously dangerous going down the stretch.
I was surprised that you guys showed up for a full game, just like you said to start off with. Not surprised because I've seen it before, but surprised in the dominant fashion that you guys came out with. And I'm not surprised that Von Miller and OBJ did absolutely nothing for them. OBJ, excuse me. He played 21 snaps and got targeted 3 times.
Yikes.
I'm not at all surprised by that. And then you see all the stuff coming out on social media today. I think it was Tyler Higbee, absolutely taking out Von Miller. No, not Tyler Higbee. It was Kittle, me, taking out Von Miller.
Yeah.
And then I saw some stats on Von Miller, and I just wasn't surprised because it felt like they were trying to add divas and star power and star names and not actual talent on a football field, to the point where I think it actually took away from what the Rams had been doing. I'm not surprised that it didn't work. It's only game 1. Things can happen. I don't expect it being this huge turn of events for the Rams to make them be the top team in the league. I really don't. I was high on them before the season, but after watching them quite a few times, I'm not as high as I thought I would be, considering the talent level that they have in Sean McVay. I'm not surprised that Kyle Shanahan outcoached McVay, because when Shanahan goes up against, I'm drawing a blank, you guys, the head coach for the Packers. I'm drawing a blank.
LaFleur.
Thank you. When he goes against LaFleur, when he goes against the Saints, when he goes against McVay, it just, everything seems to be clicking for you guys. Some coaches just get each other. Matt Rule owns Cliff Kingsbury in college and the pros. Doesn't matter who's at QB. Doesn't matter who's at running back on defense. The last year with Bridgewater, they beat us over in Carolina. So maybe sometimes it's not so much that teams have control over teams, it's the coaches, and they know what the other coach is going to do. I think there's a huge thing to that. I think it's very, very overlooked, especially look at the Pete Carroll and Harbaugh days, right? Those are the coaches that knew each other, and every game it was 6-3, or obviously it wasn't that, but it was that kind of grinded out game. But overall, surprised that you guys did pull it out, because I thought the talent level on the offensive side would come to shine for the Rams. But that's 2 out of the last 3 weeks. The Rams out of the last 2 weeks, the Rams have looked mediocre at best. Very Patrick Mahomes-y weeks 1 through 9, right? So
100%.
So that's what I was surprised for. And you guys just look damn good. And I actually like those uniforms you guys wore too, by the way, those kind of mid-90s throwback.
Actually, it's even later than that. I mean, that goes back into the 50s. I mean, that they wore those way back in the 50s, but they were popularized in those late 80s, 90s times. Because
that's when I started watching Steve Young, Jerry Rice football when they played against the Packers a couple times in the playoffs. That's when I started paying attention. So that's when I remember it. But I like those. Those are fresh.
Most fans right now for the 49ers, I wouldn't say most, let's just say a good section of the fan base is going to remember it from those days and those times. And before I talk a little bit more about this, I want to go back to something you said, Sam, because this is something that is hotly contested in San Francisco land with the 49ers, and it's just anything surrounding Jimmy Garoppolo. The name Jimmy Garoppolo, quarterback for the 49ers, immediately sparks things in fans, whether it's positive or negative. I mean, it is a trigger, 100%. But you said, the NFL has talked about Jimmy, basically they want to play from ahead. And I think that's true for most teams. Most teams want to be able to play from ahead. It allows you to execute your game plan, stick to your script, do the things you want to do, and control the tempo of the game. But I think Jimmy the last few weeks has kind of showed that the narrative around him being strictly a game manager is kind of bunk at this point. Jimmy has flaws as a quarterback. Those flaws are very obvious. He doesn't throw the ball outside the numbers very well. He's not a guy who likes to take shots, and how much of that is Kyle Shanahan and how much of that is Jimmy remains to be seen. But we've definitely seen times where Jimmy will take the less risky of 2 throws, as long as he knows it's going to be a positive gain. And there are times where he's, this year especially, the last few weeks, shown he's willing to take some shots and some chances downfield with the football. I think the big thing with Jimmy is, leading into this game, he had 2 300+ yard games where he played phenomenal. Played absolutely great. He won us the game against the Bears. He kept the 49ers relevant against the Arizona Cardinals, I guess is the only way I can say it, because for most of that game, Arizona just dominated and controlled start to finish, and the Niners shot themselves in the foot, but it wasn't Jimmy Garoppolo that did that. It was other guys. I have to disagree with the Jimmy Garoppolo narrative. A lot of people talk about him being a game manager. Jimmy Garoppolo has shown he is what the 49ers need him to be at any given moment. He's a guy who wears a lot of hats. You need a leader who's going to go out and hand the ball off 40 times. He can do that. And he'll do it without complaining. You need him to throw for 300+ yards. He can do that. He's done that the last 2 weeks leading up into this game and dating back to 2019 against the Saints. You need him to win the game with the arm. He'll win the game. He'll win the football game for you with his arm when he needs to. Is he elite? No, he's definitely not elite. Is he a middle of the pack quarterback? Most likely when he's playing at his best, that's what he is. I think that's what the 49ers view it as. But I only say that because some of the fan base is going to immediately be like, Sam, see, even Sam knows this dude's just nothing. And then there's other people going to be like, this dude's an idiot. Jimmy's the best thing that's ever happened to this organization. And they immediately go to polar ends of the spectrum rather than being somewhere in the middle, which is where Jimmy belongs. That's where he is. That's where he's at. But I agree with both of you. I mean, the big thing from Monday night was the consistency, them putting the 4 quarters together, which is great. But I want to ask you guys all this now because we've seen something now from the Rams the past 2 weeks, and in all 3 of their losses, there's a consistent theme. When the Rams lose, they get destroyed, whether it's Arizona earlier in the season, whether it's the 49ers this last game, or whether it's the Tennessee Titans. Is there a formula to beat the Rams? Do you guys think that teams have figured out a formula or an idea on how to attack the Rams? Go ahead, Evan, start.
It's the same thing with Matt Stafford that it was in Detroit. Knock him off of his spot, and he will not throw it where he needs to. So that could be short, over the head, or whatever. That's it. Pure and simple. Take it away, Sam.
I mean, Matt Stafford has not played at all well in the last 2 games. And I have to kind of agree with Evan here, and this was my main concern with what could happen to the Rams in the preseason, we're talking about like, we're not sure that Matt Stafford is gonna always show up. I mean, he's still the same guy that he was in the Lions. He's gonna have those similar tendencies. He's gonna have those similar traits to his game. And in the last 2 weeks, he's looked like just about god awful. Their O-line has been bad, especially versus the Titans, where Jeffrey Simmons had 3 first-half sacks. And we're talking about the offense just, they can't, their feet are stuck in the mud and they can't get out. They're trying things. It doesn't work. Matt Stafford had a lot of like wacky, weird errant throws last night at some points where like, you're like, where was he throwing that to? There was one that I remember where it was like, to Ben Skowronek, or I don't know how to say his last name, but like Ben Skowronek. Yeah. Skowronek. And he throws it and he's over the middle and it's like, maybe like 4 yards over his head, and like it could have been intercepted, but it was like just an overall awful pass, and it wasn't batted, like it wasn't deflected. It was just a bad throw. And you have to wonder now, like like the Rams have just put on paper and put on video what all it takes to beat them. And it's just like, they're putting pressure on him and he's making errant throws, he's making bad throws, he's getting sacked a lot in the last couple games. So I'm wondering, like, will the Rams have to change anything in order to continue to try to push for this number 1 seed? Because if Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins and especially JJ Watt, if they can all come back for Arizona, and it comes down to Arizona versus LA for the division in a game,
no contest,
I'm taking Arizona. Man, that's just from evidence of what we've seen so far. And Matt Stafford has not, and especially in the last few years of his Detroit time, where he has not put together a lot of like complete seasons where he'll start off well or end poorly, or start off poorly and end well. We might be seeing
Correct.
like something where Matt Stafford has like a 4-game, 5-game stinker, and the Rams like begin to struggle and are now in a spot where maybe they're not so comfortable at where they are, because with this division, they're 1 game away from being a wild card team.
And
so,
not to mention Robert Woods being out obviously hurts them.
I think that is a huge, I don't think people quite understand how big of an injury that is. And Evan, go into that a little bit more.
I mean, this is a guy that's been in the McVay system how long now? That just knows how to get open, knows how to make big plays.
Maybe like 4 years, 5 years. It's
Yeah.
been he's been there for a while.
Exactly. He's done nothing but put up year after year stats. And then you bring in a guy like OBJ, who probably has already asked to be traded from the Rams and does not get open. Like, people are blaming Baker for some things. Like, yeah, there were some things that Baker missed, absolutely, but he didn't do himself any favors by getting wide open and running a perfect route. You know what I mean? So he just wants to go up there and be that ball hawk type of dude. And I don't know if that's Matt Stafford's game, trying to fit it in between windows right now. It wasn't Baker Mayfield's game, and that's what he had to do to get the ball to him. And they can't really run it. Their running game is average. I had the stats up earlier. I don't know if you guys know where they're at, but it's not like they can lean on the run game to get him through some of these times. I mean,
their
Goff
run
at
game
least good.
Their run game has been dependent on the deep ball. So when Stafford has been able to complete the deep ball, they've had a lot of success in the run game. When he can take shots downfield and they get the ball moving with big, huge chunk plays, the run game has success because teams have to back off a little bit. You have to be a little more cautious. You have to be ready for those things. And so you can't be as aggressive coming downhill. And that's what's changed the last couple of weeks, right? Is you had the Niners who pressed early, got in, the run fits were really good. You got some turnovers early, and now you can't rely on that run game, which means you can sit back and, just keep things in front of you and not let them get those big, deep plays. And the Titans were able to get after that O-line, and that interior O-line that is the biggest chink in their armor right now. It is not good. It is not good. Do I believe that it'll stay as bad as it's been the last few weeks the rest of the season? No, but it's still a weakness that all the teams in the NFC, and in the NFC West especially, know about and can go after. The Cardinals, you said it. You said it best, man. When you talked about Stafford, Evan, and his struggles throwing on the move, throwing off platform, he is not great. And when he's dealing with the low back stuff that he's dealing with right now, and he's dealing with the ankle, it's going to make it that much worse. We were on Quest for the West, and I told you guys, when Jimmy's got lower leg injuries, he's bad. He's not a good quarterback when he's got lower leg injuries. Stafford is in a similar boat right now. He's not a guy who's very good at throwing on the run. When you have lower body injuries, and you're trying to throw on the move, you're not able to just sit in the pocket comfortably and deliver the football. That's tough. That's tough to do.
They are 23rd in rushing yards per game, and right under them at number 22 is Seattle. But here's the thing with Los Angeles, their longest run of the season is 29 yards. That is their longest run, and they only have 7 touchdowns off of that. That's not a recipe for success, especially when it comes to the playoffs. You're just not going to get very far. So good luck to them. I don't see it. I thought Sony Michel was actually going to do a few more things for them. I really did, especially as a scat back, doing little things out of the backfield like he did. It doesn't even feel like they're utilizing him to the fullest of their capability either. So maybe it's more of a McVay thing, but maybe it's a personnel thing. I don't know. Either way, if this doesn't work this year and next year, they could be bad for a while, man, because they don't have any draft picks. And Matt Stafford ain't getting any younger.
Not only that, but everyone's forgetting this also. Rolling into next season, they got $7 million in cap space. That's it. You have $7 million and you don't have the draft capital to bring in young guys. I mean, it's a recipe for disaster.
But the cap has proven not to matter one damn bit to the Rams.
That's because they're pushing money down the road. They're just kicking that can way down the road. They got incentive laden contracts. They got guys who are going to they have guys that are going to get paid long after they're gone. It's like Tampa Bay, where they got I think they got 6 or 8 guys right now on their roster that their contracts expire this year. They're probably not going to be paying them. They may even retire this year, that they'll be paying 4 years after they've basically retired and been away from the football team.
So Bobby Bonilla, right?
Yeah, I was going to say. Aaron Donald is going to have a Bobby Bonilla day in LA every year. We're going to be 2040.
I don't know if Donald's contract is the one that's like that, but I know they did that with OBJ a little bit. That's why his number is so low this year and his cap hit, because they only had $2 million in cap space when they brought him in. And I think they're doing that also with Von Miller. I don't know if they're restructuring, but the Denver Broncos took a huge chunk of that, so they don't have to. But they're just not going to have the money to re-sign some of these guys. Some of these guys are going to walk in free agency and go other places. And you got $7 million rolling into next season, and that's with the cap going up. With the cap going up, you got $7 million in cap space. Yeah. It's not the best situation for the LA Rams, but they're going all in, right? This is what they've been doing. They've been trying to buy themselves a championship. This is their formula. It's kept them very competitive and almost got them one. They're trying to get themselves back to that dance and get themselves another opportunity.
And they're wasting Jalen Ramsey's career, and they just need to ship him to Arizona, and everything will be fine.
I think all of us feel that way. I think Sam wouldn't mind having a Jalen Ramsey out there on the outside to pair with Bobby Wagner in the middle.
That'd be dope. Yeah, or Aaron Donald. Sure, why not? We'll take Aaron Donald too.
Would you rather have Jalen Ramsey or Adams back there?
I'd say Jalen Ramsey, and that's not a shot at Jamal Adams. I just really think that Jalen Ramsey is really, really good. And
that dude.
He's I hate to say it, but he's one of my favorite players with the way that he talks and the way that he plays. I think that he's dope. I think that his gritty way, he makes tackles, and I think that's something that we haven't seen from a lot of corners. It's something that kind of reminds me a bit of Sherm and in his early days in Seattle, where he was able to just get back there and he was not afraid to make a play. So I would take Jalen Ramsey just right now. And once again, not a shot at Jamal in any way, because he actually had a fantastic, a really, really good game this week versus Green Bay. Mm-hmm. But I would say
Jamal's got as many picks now as Vince Wilfork in his career.
Hey, we're getting there. We're getting there.
I had to do it because the running joke over here is that he's a D-end. That's the running joke over on the cutback, is that Jamal Adams actually has a D-end.
He has 0 sacks this year.
That's nuts. That is absolutely nuts.
What is he doing then? I don't understand the point of him then.
He's had a far better coverage year. Far better coverage year. He's actually been a pretty damn good box, and he's playing a lot more back too, and he got a pick this week, and he's had 4 passes or 4 or 5 passes broken up, so he's been pretty reliable. this year, and we've blitzed him less. Like we've blitzed him significantly less than last year, which it's not that blitzes aren't getting home. It's just that we've, for some reason, we've just chosen that we're not going to blitz him as much anymore. And I'm assuming that comes from him being in the system longer, and we kind of have an idea of what we want to do. So that's interesting. But yeah,
hey, I don't blame you. There are not a lot of people that I would choose over Jalen Ramsey. There's just not. He takes your game plan, right, and you can now literally on certain situations do whatever you want scheme wise on one half of the field and just go, hey Jalen, have fun. You just have fun over there by yourself with that dude and make sure he doesn't catch a big pass. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
And that's what it was like having Richard Sherman back in the day and Patrick Peterson. So we know how valuable those type of players are.
Shut down.
And they're few and far between. They are few and far between.
I wish that I knew what that was like. We were hoping it was going to be Jason Verrett. We haven't had like a shutdown corner. It's been a while. It's been a while in San Francisco since we've had one of those incredible linebackers.
Who was your dynamic defensive back duo back in the mid 2000s, maybe late 2000s?
It was going to be Ronnie Lott. In the late 2000s?
No, late 2000s.
Oh, late 2000s.
Because I remember these two guys always going up against Bolden and Fitzgerald and just always
probably Tremaine. I think it might have been Brock and Dante Whitner.
That doesn't sound like it. You're probably right, but you're probably right.
Tremaine Brock had like 2 or 3 great years in San Francisco, and then went and got himself paid in Washington with a different system, and then was never that dude again.
And then he was in Washington.
There you go. There's also that. Hey, but the culture is just fantastic. It's just great over there with the Washington football team and what they got going on.
Sports.
Oh man, that's a different topic for not a show that's not this one. But guys, look, the quest for the NFC West is definitely heating up. It's definitely spicy right now. You know, the Cardinals, like you said, just trying to survive and get to the bye. The Rams are at their bye, so they're breathing a heavy sigh of relief after that shellacking on Monday night. Seattle trying to find their groove and get everything back in order and get themselves back on the right track. Niners only a few games away from you guys, and who would have thought that I could say that at this point of the year after the way the season started? They just need one more game to get themselves to 500 and keep pushing for that 6th seed in the NFC and give themselves that cushion. Seattle just a few games back from being able to get themselves into the conversation, and Arizona trying to just get there, get to that bye week, get yourself healthy, and then be able to roll the second half of the season. Guys, it was a blast having you guys both back, all in the same show, being able to converse and discuss what's going on with the NFC. Let them know where they can find you, Sam.
Y'all can find me at the Always Compete Seahawks Podcast, whether that's on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Just find me there.
And Evan?
At Coach Evan B is the personal account on Twitter, and then at He's on Fire Podcast, and that is also on Twitter. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Google Playlist, Apple Podcasts, all that fun stuff.
Make sure you check both of them out. Both of them cover both of their teams, both the Seattle Seahawks and the Arizona Cardinals, extremely well. And if you're also into other sports, Evan does a lot of other stuff over there on He's on Fire and the ASAP Sports Network, whether that's basketball, college football. I mean, you guys literally do it all. You covered all. You're extremely in-depth, all three of you there, from Amit, Jay, and yourself. Both of you guys, incredible jobs. Always a blast having you on.
Thank you.
Thank you guys both so much. The NFC West is heating up. Each team is finding their groove or trying to get that groove back. We'll see what this week has in store, and we'll see you on the next one.
Go Cards.